Welcome to the Lorehounds podcast, where the Lorehounds your guides to small town terrors. I'm John.
I'm Elysia.
And I'm Mark from Nevermind the Music. This is our coverage of It, Welcome to Derry on HBO Max. Or, if you're listening in the future, maybe HBO Max/Netflix/Paramount.
No.
Season 1, Episode 7, The Black Spot. Sorry, too soon? Well, it's very in the middle is what it is, not even soon.
You know, these networks are dying like Pennywise is in town.
Right.
If you want to get into contact with us, send an email to horror@thelorehounds.com or head to our Discord server from the link tree in the show notes.
And if you like what you've heard and want to support us or get ad-free bonus content, check the same link tree for our Patreon or Supercast subscription options.
All right, folks, we are here for the penultimate episode. I can finally say that and not make up penultimate. We have some hot takes for you. So, Mark, you want to start off?
Sure, yeah. I mostly was down with this episode. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as much as it was a real bummer. I really was not happy to see my man Rich go down that way. I think this is one of those episodes that's you can appreciate how distressing things are to watch and how stressful it is and how sad it is and appreciate it and feel like, wow, good job, and also kind of hate it. Like I'm kind of mad about that scene, and I'm mad as a fan, but I'm also like, there's a couple questions I have, but like, why do you have to go down that way? Ugh, it's painful. Mostly I like this episode. I will quibble, I'm sure, with some things later on. I find this really opening up a lot of, I don't know what's happening next, right? We know it or Pennywise is not free across the entire earth come 1985, right? So, or whatever the exact date of the 2017 film is. So how exactly is this going to wrap up? I am super interested to see. Looking forward to talking about it also.
Very cool. You know, you bring up Rich. I saw a TikTok edit where somebody put the Sinners ending monologue or ending dialogue over Rich, like, you know, before the sun went down, that was the greatest day of my life.
No.
And I knew that was going to get Elysia when I told her about that. Because Alicia's a big Sinners fan. Mark, have you seen Sinners?
I have. And yeah, I think I that comparison was hurtling towards us when we learned that The Black Spot was the centerpiece of this season, I think.
True.
But yeah, it's too soon for the jokes, though. Come on. Poor Rich.
Yeah, I mean, Rich, the fact that they centered on him last episode, right? And that he had, you know, he, like I said, you kind of can apply, even without the comparison of two speakeasies, basically, you can apply that to Rich's arc.
Right.
You know, that was the best day of my life before the sun went down. Like, he's playing the drums with the full band and people are cheering for him. He's getting Air Force Coke. He's, you know, he's hanging with his friends
with his
all
girl.
day.
Yeah.
He got laid for the first time.
He and Marge are like hitting it off, and man, I mean, I think they did a really great job setting that up to be a big loss, like an emotional
To kill
loss.
us, yeah, to hurt us.
Yeah, yeah, and overall, I guess I'm kind of segueing into my hot takes, but overall, I just think that they really nailed the Bob Gray stuff. I think I heard that Stephen King approved them doing all that, so that's cool. Because Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't really get much Bob Gray in the book, right? It's just referred to.
Yeah, I mean, you all have read it more recently than me, at least Alicia's further in. I think so. Yeah, it's really just backstory. You hear about it from Demon Mrs. Kirsch, right? It's sort of somebody that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Pennywise will refer to himself by that name sometimes, but it's, yeah, nothing like this. And I should have included that. Like, that was, I have quibbles about my man Rich going down at the end, but I don't have a lot of quibbles about the 1908 stuff. I thought that was really awesome to see Skarsgård in two character mode in this episode.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, Bill Skarsgård is really a horror actor of our generation, and he will go down as one of the legends. He's going to go down as like a Boris Karloff, you know what I mean?
I mean, I hope that people see this and just think, and well, I do have to say he is doing leading roles at the same time in other movies.
Right.
He's been quite busy, but I hope people look at this and say that it's not just that he's not just a horror actor, but like in order to do this, like the fact that we saw him in this episode play Bob Gray behind the scenes with his daughter, on the stage entertaining the kids, being a depressed widower alcoholic in the woods, and then an entity that steals that identity and uses all those different aspects as well to mess with his daughter, to mess with the town, and the just the difference, like how each iteration of that character feels like a completely different person who's somehow making the same moves but with a different intention. Like he's still doing the jaunty walk, but in one it's innocent and pure, and in the other it's terrifying and malevolent.
Right.
Just,
I love how it saw the Pennywise walk and was like, "Oh, I'm taking that. That's awesome.
That is stylish."
But we can talk about this. But Bob Gray isn't innocent and pure, though, right? He's like believable,
right,
and real.
He
and
plays
empathetic,
innocent and pure on stage. I was saying, yeah,
right. The children love him. And then you see behind his eyes, he's a good dad, and he's all torn up and broken. Like that's a great what. 10 minutes of screen time, maybe we get. And then later in the episode, we get, is there face on my face? Like we get the opposite kind of corruption of that, right?
That was such, like his delivery is just so like dripping with sarcasm. You know what I mean? Like what an amazing portrayal of Pennywise. I know I love Tim Curry, and I haven't seen his full It movie, but from the clips I've seen, like, I don't know. There's just something about Bill Skarsgård. It's kind of like people say about Lestat, right? That who played him in the movie?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, so Tom Cruise was a good actor for Lestat, but Sam Reed is possessed by Lestat, and I feel the same way about the Pennywise actors. Is that Tim Curry was a great actor not for Lestat, although wouldn't that be fun? Young Tim Curry as Lestat. Yeah. Tim Curry was a great actor for Pennywise, but Pennywise is possessing Bill Skarsgård.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the physical acting is just so impressive. It's not just about how he emotes with his face or whatever. It's just every little muscle of his body he adjusts to all these different iterations of the character. Just like throw Emmys at this man. Come on. What are we doing?
And I at the risk of, trampling, we still haven't even heard Elysia's hot take. Sorry. We didn't get him for the first, 4 episodes?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were a lot of people kind of like, where's Pennywise? But to get him in such a kind of full feature way near the end of this season, I think it was important that they save it, because could you imagine if you were kind of over Pennywise when you got to this episode, right? If you're like, oh, here we go. Like, whereas, because I think it is a lot. I think I said is there face on my face line? Like, it's really fun, but it's also pretty stupid. And so if you were, it's a little bit like, yeah, in the middle of it. And like, does Pennywise have a sense of humor, this creature? Like, maybe not. But he said it. Like, if we were already used to it by the time this episode came, it would have really taken away the magic of seeing him with, visible makeup on and the nuances of him as a human being, right? Not him, but, the source material, right, so to speak. So it was, in retrospect, I think to folks that maybe were impatient, there wasn't enough It in the first half of It, the series, this might be the justification for it.
Fair enough. Elysia, I have been hogging the hot take time, so go for it.
No, I think, you already brought up Rich. I am glad that I predicted that it was going to go down like this. So I did feel when it happened, I was like, oh, here we go. Okay. I do have my only quibbles with this episode. I do think this is the best episode of the season, as a lot of people have been saying. My only quibbles with it do revolve around little things about the moment, like should Rich have been able to breathe well enough to confess his love to Marge at that moment? Like, probably not, but it made me cry, so I'll allow it. I just was completely moved by this episode. It hit all of my emotional quadrants. So, I think that this episode was a masterpiece. And it's a fact that this was the penultimate episode and there's still one more episode left is blowing my mind. They're also leaning more into, just creating it, making a more and more unsettling atmosphere. Like, talked about the intro, picking up sounds as the weeks go on, and I definitely notice that obviously more than ever this time, but I'm also wondering, like, is it more tilted than ever too, faster? It just feels like things are going off the rails in a very orchestrated way. And I've been noticing, I don't know if you guys have encountered this, but a lot of Stranger Things comparisons online, and I've watched the first half of the Stranger Things season, and there's definite Stephen King inspirations going on there.
It's always been the case there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they even put Finn Wolfhard in both. So, like,
okay.
It's kind of hard to avoid the Stranger Things comparisons.
But
I'm only one episode deep so far, sadly.
Okay. No, no spoilers or anything. But it is something I've seen a lot of people bringing up online is, it seems to be everyone picking sides for some reason between these two. And if we have to do that, then fine. I'll say, I think I understand why people like Stranger Things, because it may have the lazier writing, but it does leave you with that sort of Amblin, Steven Spielberg feeling that everything's going to be okay. And this Welcome to Derry is definitely not that kind of story.
No.
Gosh, no.
You're going to leave traumatized.
Right. And this episode was a prime example. I mean, they did a great job, like in terms of making us all fall in love with the character. I saw everyone crying about Rich. That's it. And I feel great for the kid who played Rich, that he played such a memorable role. And I really hope to see him in other things because he just has such great comedic timing and a charm. And he's going to be a great actor. I'd love to see more of him.
I think he was 10 when they were filming.
Wow.
And Marge was 14 and 15.
Okay.
Wow, good for him.
It's I mean, first of all, she did a very good job, like, aging herself down, but he's 10 years old, you're acting like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He did a great job because he's funny, but not like one-liner jokes. He's just like got a fun kind of charisma to him.
Right.
Right. He's got that taste and timing.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Well, Elysia, you done with your hot takes?
Yep.
Then let's go.
I liked it.
Let's go right into the episode for a picture of Robert Gray. In 1908, Bob Gray performs his act as Pennywise the Dancing Clown for a delighted crowd of children. A spooky child watches him from the window of a nearby building. After the show, he tells his daughter Ingrid that he hopes to return to the circus. She surprises him with her own clown costume, and he names her Periwinkle, which was her late mother's stage name, then asks her to show him the bow. A proud father embraces his daughter. Later on, the mysterious child reappears to lure Bob Gray into the woods and steal his identity. Ingrid learns her father has died.
Great impression, by the way.
Show me the bow. The way that Bill Skarsgård, like, moves his mouth to play Pennywise is just like, who would think of that? You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
That's acting from, like, a person, on a level where, like, a normal person couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have your own creativity to come up with the mouth shapes to act like that.
Yeah. I was saying before, it's like he has extra muscles in his lips or something. The way he can move his mouth, and it's insane. I also just, want to lavish some praise on the production design of this show because we haven't done that enough. But even just details like the warm lighting of the circus at night in the 1908 flashback, it's just a stunning series.
You're not finding any LEDs there.
And I just love the details, like the character design with, the fact Bob Gray is wearing this bald cap with the wig and stuff, and it creates this extra large head shape, which Pennywise copies. Just absolutely love the details like that. And did you guys notice that Andy Muschietti was back as the organ grinder?
No, I didn't. That's so funny.
Was he playing the piano in an earlier episode or something like that? Or was he was playing the organ? Like,
I think he was doing the organ.
Same thing? In the circus scene. Okay.
Yeah, when they went into the tent thing. Where young Shaw saw the skeleton.
Exactly right. Yeah, There we go. And I looked into, and maybe the Hive Mind has discovered this since the day I watched the episode, but Santini Brothers Carnival, I don't believe that is a thing in Stephen King in the larger mythos. I don't think it's a reference. I don't think there's a lot of stuff set in that era, though understandably we could also think of this as sort of parallel to the late 1800s if we were going to shift everything earlier 30 years. But yeah, I think it's just a name, if anybody's wondering. Tell me I'm wrong, Reader Reborn. You're the one who would know, I think, of the Discord community, the most Stephen King books under your belt. I don't know if anybody saw any different. I have a question about Ingrid. Why would she stay in Derry after this happened? Is it just, did she immediately just get put in a foster home, or I guess back then, likely an orphanage? Was she just kind of left to her? She's old enough, maybe she's like 12 or something. Oh, you're on your own now. Like, it almost seems like it's not the first choice for her probably to just stay in this town that killed her dad. But presumably the carnival moved on,
Yeah, but she seemed to have clung to hope that he somehow survived in some form. I think even before she saw this Pennywise version. I don't know, because didn't she say something about the fact that she ended up at the hospital, that she just ended up there?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
She ended up at the place she would work. Like, I was under the understanding that the 1930s moment was when she realized her dad was alive, as opposed to back then that she had some hope. But
I mean, she thought
I think that's her first Pennywise sighting. But I think Alicia's right that there was some hope there, and also Elysia, were you the one who said this? That maybe she just didn't have the means, right? Like, she's a kid, and she's stuck in Derry, and that's just what happened. A lot of people stay where they live because they just don't have the money to move somewhere else.
Right.
Well, but I guess as opposed to where she lives, like if they had some, let's say they live in St. Louis or something.
Oh, I don't think
you're going back. We're dropping you off on the way back.
Their home was the carnival.
Yeah.
Might be. Yeah.
I love, by the way, the carnival. It took me a beat to realize what was going on, but the fact that his entire clown show, which is to entertain kids, it's a very sad clown show. It's all about his wife dying.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, right? It's not like Pennywise was this great clown. It's just that, first of all, there's no TV, there's no movie, there's nothing to entertain these kids back then. So any moving around thing is very entertaining for kids. But
I think he's a great clown, just a sad clown.
Fair enough. It's dark, right? Like, there's already dark emotions laced into the silliness. And I wonder if that's why it was so drawn to him.
I mean, yeah, so we have that image of the boy who's clearly the entity in, watching from a distance from that window. And then
the range of Bill Skarsgård, they really de-aged him.
but seeing this clown perform on stage and seeing that, I can imagine if the entity is appearing as this child and approaching other children, the other children are probably like, oh, I don't know, this kid's off, not really engaging. Yeah. And then meanwhile, you see this clown finish a show and all these children rush the stage to be closer to this clown. It's like, ooh, that's interesting,
Right. Well, somebody pointed out on, I think it was Reddit or something, like how it, as the kid, comes up to Bob Gray at first and says, "The children seem to like you," and then he's like, "Huh?" And then it recalibrates and it's like, "My parents are missing," right? Like,
right.
realizes that it's in the form of a kid and needs to act like a kid. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also being a clown allows you more room to behave unusually, which would be good for an inhuman entity. And just you can see also when the kid, quote unquote kid, the entity child, interacts with Bob Gray, says, I can't find my parents. And Bob Gray's, yeah, I like that whole exchange. Me neither. They're dead. Will you help me find them? No. It's like, well, this is why the entity wants kids, because kids are less snarky and more willing to go along and be like, "Oh, are we going on an adventure?"
Right. And I wonder if its magic kind of works against the feeding cycle, right? Because they're so willing to overlook violence that it's harder to get them to run to help.
To trap an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's possible. I wonder if the easy prey aspect is as important as just the sweet flavor of a child that it likes. But I do think, underscoring what Elysia was saying, just the physical comedy of a Pennywise the Dancing Clown is possibly more understandable to this entity, right? Than trying to act cool and trying to act normal, but like, oh, I can move my body in a kind of unusual and surprising way, in a way that will not immediately, like a kid with glowing eyes, send people screaming. Obviously, Pennywise the clown form is scary, but it can kind of maybe make sense of that reality a little more because of the heightened reality and the physical exaggerated movements and things. Like, we don't know. I made the comment earlier about, like, does Pennywise have a sense of humor? He said, is there face on my face? But we can't really comprehend its intellect and the way that its brain works. And there's something about a clown that is a caricature that might be easier to inhabit on some level.
If I could make my second interview with the vampire reference of the episode, the vampire is bored. Like, I think Pennywise, or I think it gets bored and just kind of does, like, Pennywise could just go around town killing people, right? Like, it doesn't need to do all this, like, trapping and scaring, but it's just bored and likes to do it, right? I love the scene of the show me the bow mirror from the beginning and the end was really wonderful, I thought. And overall, just excellent work by Bill Skarsgård in the writing, and I'm glad that we got this origin story. Again, I think Mark brought this up first, but, like, what are we going to get in 1908 if we get a season 3 here?
I mean, that makes me even more excited, because the fact that these obvious things that I would expect are already being revealed, it means that they're going to surprise me with new things. Like, with this season, we knew that the big event was going to be the black spot burning down. That is, we've talked about this before. This is just, it's in the book itself, not just the black spot, but just the spoilery nature of this story. This is not a story that's about, can you figure out what's going on? We know what's going on. It's it. And yeah, this just gives us, and we got this season, for example, it's not about, we knew the black spot was going to burn down. It was going to break our heart, but we didn't know that Rich was going to be in it, that we were going to care about this little drummer boy. Come, they told him, Pennywise will eat your brain. Yeah, and so that means there's
I don't hear the original lyrics that often, Elysia. Thank you.
It's better in the original Latin.
But it just means that they have, I assume at this point, the way they're structuring the story, the way they've been open about their plans for this story, that they have all three seasons mapped out. And this means they have something up their sleeve that's going to surprise us, even though we know the story.
I think that's right. And when you have a prequel in general, but especially in it, where things are so based on the chemistry of the kid group, you need to have the characters be the core of the story, right? The characters need to move the story, not the other way around, because you know what's going to happen eventually, and you can't rely on plot twists and mystery boxes as much.
And I think that's very Stephen King. I know there's a lot of argument to be made about certain aspects of this season that don't feel very Kingian, but he will have, especially like his true crime bent, the last maybe 15 years or so, he's written a lot of true crime adjacent, CSI Maine kind of novels. Mm-hmm. And I haven't read all of them, certainly, but I've read a few of them. And oftentimes it's the kind of thing where you're following a detective who's investigating this thing, but you've also been following the murderer, the heinous criminal the whole time. It's not about the mystery at all. Like, the mystery is spoiled very early in the novel. It's how do we get there? And even a sort of crime mystery novel is not about the mystery. And so I think I appreciate freeing the need to, like, it would be absurd, obviously, to have 1908 be a mystery box season where they're like, who's going to turn into Pennywise? Like, no, but I think also maybe we have clarity, or at least potential clarity, that Ingrid won't maybe be the centerpiece that I was wondering early in the season, or earlier when we first realized who she was, that maybe she was our main character in 1908. And I feel like we might intersect with them, but first of all, her actor, she'll be, probably too old at that point. But I think we've maybe seen the story play out, and that the Bob Gray may appear as a character, but the centerpiece of that season and of the 1935 doesn't feel like it could really be her, as much as she is color that's been added to kind of paint that picture for us when we get there.
All right, mark this for 3 years from now, 4 years from now, is that I'm going to say that the scene that we get of Ingrid in the 1908 story is her trying to replace her father as Periwinkle and being rejected by the carnival.
Mm-hmm. Or by someone in town. I mean, yeah. I suppose that is what they could show us in 1908, is why and how does she get established in town. But I guess it makes sense. A child is orphaned. The circus or the carnival is not like, sorry, but there is a big difference between carnivals and circuses. I know they differentiate in this show. But they are like, well, we're not an orphanage. And so they hand her over to the town.
What if they give her a trial show and she doesn't have somebody to work all the gears like she did?
Oh.
And it just bombs. Oh, poor Ingrid, but not poor Ingrid, because she ends up murdering a lot of people. So,
that's why.
Why don't we? Yeah, that's why. It's just revenge on Derry for the rest of her life. Let's go on to the black spot. Elysia, you want to read that?
Sure. The racist mob enters the black spot and demands they turn over Hank Grogan. Hank offers to leave them to avoid violence, but the soldiers defend him. The mob leaves, only to chain the doors shut and commit arson. As the building falls, Halloran uses his powers to ask an indigenous ghost for help to get the kids out, and suddenly rescues Hank, Will, and Ronnie. Marge and Rich get trapped in the building, and before the roof collapses, Rich tricks Marge into taking the only safe spot available inside a trunk. He locks her in, and the two confess their love to each other. Rich dies as the building collapses. And I saw someone also said this on our Discord chat, but the first thing I wrote down as I wrote this scene is the icebox is the Titanic door, only this time it actually looks like it only fits one person.
I thought the same thing of like, oh, this is actually logistically an issue now. Which honestly, the Titanic thing is overblown because like the thing would have sunk with two people on it. That was like, the whole point. But yeah, there was definitely only room for one person. But I love when she gets in, she's like, wait a minute. He's like, nope. Yeah. And good attention to detail, he shoves her hands back in so her fingers don't get caught.
Right. And I looked up, by the way, after this scene, I was like, smoke inhalation, better death than burning? And Google was worried about me and sent me some phone numbers of people who can help me.
Oh my God.
Yikes. Okay, so I like this episode. I made some light of like, oh, they killed my man Rich. I actually hate this moment in a lot of ways. From a filmmaking, like I really loved their moment. We could quibble about whether he would have the oxygen or maybe he should have been more drowsy or something. Putting aside maybe the question of whether she would cook alive and then die inside that thing as the house heated up or the bar caught on fire. I did not like. He didn't even try to escape. Like, other people were still in the process of escaping that place, and it's not that big. I don't buy that even the most love-struck 12-year-old would resign to his death. It's one thing to get her. Okay, you get her in there. You tell her you love her. I want to see him try to get the hell out of there and fail to try to, like, we saw him, 10 meters away or whatever, sitting sort of as he had asphyxiated and not burned. But like, it was the whole thing. We got to get you in there. This roof is going to collapse. And the roof didn't even collapse. So I just think my man Rich got written a little. They really loved that speech. You got to give him a little more self-preservation at that point. And after the speech, give him the speech, fine. I didn't really buy that he wouldn't really try to escape. Like, what?
Maybe
do you want to see this?
Maybe they should have staged it so that so that they were in a back room. Because I just, at some point, as soon as I saw like that part of the ceiling fall, I was like, oh, this is TV speak for they're trapped. But I suppose they could have staged it in a way that made it more visually convincing how trapped they were.
Yeah, it could be as simple as that, the sort of blocking. Because I mean, I enjoyed this episode, but I have to say I did not enjoy watching this. Like, it was only in the retrospect that I was able to really go, oh crap, he's dead. Oh wow, that was really, because this really was a suitably distressing and thrilling scene. Like, you can't see what's going on. It's chaos. It's like people are like getting their heads blown off. It's just really, they amped up the intensity in a really effective way, and it pulled me out of it to go, come on. And it wasn't until later, like really the next day, that I was able to appreciate this scene instead of kind of just be mad at the weird character moment. Like, so it might have simply just been blocking. Like, if they had just shown some kind of a different angle where it was clear that he was trapped and there's no point in even trying. But then, like, when the firefighters come hours later, and maybe I'm cutting ahead too much, they're not even like they like discover Marge, and they're just like, oh, Marge, hey Marge, and then firefighters just walk away. It's like, no, they would be picking her up. They'd be, is she okay? Like, it was just, there was like a lack of urgency in this little part of the house. I feel like there's a chill out man vibe that strikes you when you get close to this ice box. Like, what do they have in there that's in the air? Like, I don't know. It's just a little weird. They wanted people to have their moments in the same way that they stop the EMTs or whatever they are, firefighters, stop carrying Rich's body so Marge can grab his hand instead of like, we got to try to save people, little girl. Like, it's just weird. Like, they went for the feels with the speech, and it was all well written, but they executed it in a way that made it hard for me, just me, to appreciate it and feel sad instead of just like, you put it this way, they took away my favorite character, and I feel like it was unfair. I'm like, he should still be alive. It was like, and I know that's, this is ridiculous, like dozens of people die there. If any of you ever play video games and you've ever had like you beaten the boss, and then there's a cutscene where it shows you getting your butt beat up by the boss, you're like, hang on, I just removed all of your hit points. How are you forcing me to lose this boss? It felt a little bit like that. Like, they cheap-shotted killing him, and it took away my ability to appreciate. This is by far the most negative I'm going to be in this episode. So I really liked it, except for they took away my chance to feel the moment because I didn't buy that this 12-year-old would just, I'm going to die now. That sounds fun. I love you. I'm going to save your life. And then I'm going to not try to save my own to try to be with you again when we get out of this mess. I'll stop there. I'm sure I've made my point.
I do think he was, he was trying to be her knight, right? And kids don't always think logically. And I think for him, he was like, she's going to get out if I leave this, right? She's going to figure out a way to get out and
totally
get out of the case, right? And he wanted to be the hero. And yeah, that's kind of where I went with that. His
that's
body
all
looked
fine though.
way
Like he can do everything
undamaged for having a roof fall on him.
Yeah, it was smoke inhalation that killed him, right?
Yeah, but the roof still would have come down, right?
But the roof didn't come down.
Oh, you're right.
That's what they were saying. Like you can see a shot. The roof is totally there. He was all like, "You got to get in here. This roof is going to come down," and it didn't. So, and John, I am completely believing a 1960s love-struck kid, also with a patriarchal society. I have to save the object of my affections. I believe he would do everything up until that moment. It's the moment they finish their conversation and he's locked her in there that we don't get to see him, fight for his own life, right? It's not the knighthood.
At that point, we're just supposed to accept, and like I said, I think this is a staging issue, that he sees no way out, and that's why he did this whole Marge in the box thing in the first place.
And I will also say, like, if we had gotten out of this and none of the Losers Club died, I think that it would have felt very cheap, right? Because so many people died in there. Like, if nobody died, I mean, I wouldn't have been shocked if, like, everybody in there just died.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I would have been shocked if Will died because he's supposed to be alive for, to have Mike. But
well, let's come back to that. But totally, yeah. Look, maybe I'm just butthurt that he's dead. Maybe that's all this is. And I want to be like, but can I rewind it and maybe he'll survive next time because it's unfair? Maybe that's all this is. But I wanted to feel it too. I wanted to like cry, I guess.
I did.
So yeah, maybe you did enough for both of us. So yeah, we can move on. It's not a big deal. It's just, my man, Rich, guys.
Yeah.
Anyways, can I say a couple things? Just book comparison, and I don't know if you've read yet. If you're far enough, Elysia, to get to the point where they're learning some of this backstory in the book. If so, please do add to it. But it's a little bit different, which, for big surprise, this is an adaptation, but it's kind of like a KKK analog in the book. It's the Legion, the main Legion of White Decency are the people who burn this place down. And that might be who these dudes are. They may still be that, but
they had a sign on town about the Legion of Decency.
Okay, so these are surely members, but it's sort of, in the book, it's more just like a racist attack. I don't think it's much, which clearly this is that, but it's motivated also. We see the sort of Hank search, right? It's more just a terrorist act, I would say, in the novels, the novels portrayal. Motivated. And say again, what?
Here it's more motivated.
I mean, not by anything real. I mean, but yes,
but ostensibly you have a fugitive.
That's right.
Trying to get right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. And also the other watch for named characters. Norma Price, the teenager-ish girl who is maybe the singer, I think, in the last episode during Rich's jam session. The one who maybe her father or her uncle or whatever said, Norma Price, is that you? I don't think that is a character that people know in the novel or related works. Again, stop me if I'm wrong, especially folks in the Discord, but just checking. Kind of anytime there's a random name, I'm always wondering if it's a character that we see in 1922 or some other kind of early 20th century King story, but apparently not.
As far as the Legion of White Decency, I appreciated the fact that they, with this season, a lot of it is about, and of course, Stephen King's books are about the fact, this is Maine, and people are like, oh, the North, it's different. It's not like the South with the racism and all that. But here you have, so the characters don't put on KKK robes in this version because they don't see themselves like that. They're like, we are better than that. They put on these random monster masks. And then we just see that whole quote unquote good Northerner facade is blown up. Question though, do you think Pennywise made them not notice the children in there? Because they're like, oh, white woman, you get out of here. You're in trouble. As you were saying, Norma Bryce. And then they just like, okay, let's just block these 3 clearly visible children in here. But I can see that Pennywise has certainly made adults of Derry overlook more than that.
Yeah, and going back to the racism thing, like, yeah, the North. First of all, like, I grew up on Long Island, and I remember teachers talking about how, like, the KKK had a sizable presence on Long Island. Like, there were, like, tens of thousands of KKK members on Long Island at its height. And, we're a northern state. It's not like we're in the South. Like, the racism is everywhere in the United States. And you just have to, you have to accept that as the truth if you want to be honest with yourself. And Maine, especially rural Maine, I think is going to be very similar.
Dude, I live near Boston, and I've had work colleagues of mine who are from the South be like, no, Boston is legit more racist than, Little Rock, Arkansas. And it's just different. Quantity is a tough thing, but like it's the nature of it is different, right? Because there's less of an organized Black community in some of these segregated northern cities that the racism, you can be almost less protected by your sort of fellows in your minority, especially racial minority, because you're sort of in this, like, you could be lost among a city where then persecution can be very different, but very bad also, right? And this is Boston, and people stereotype Massachusetts as this blue haven, and it has a really bad reputation for being really racist.
Right.
Even now.
And just in the books, it's earlier, right? The whole Black Spot event, it's in the 1930s or 1920s. When is it?
Is it in the 50s?
No, because the 50s is when the kids are...
Right.
It has to be one generation before.
To the 30s.
30s,
so I just want to say, like, changing this to the 60s does change the way that the racism will manifest, because people were, were very racist in the 60s still. It was, like you're saying, Mark, less tied to Klan robes and more about, the civil rights movement opposition. And there still could be, acts of violence like this, like the arson, but it's not like they're wearing costumes. Well, I guess they were wearing costumes. You know what? I take it all back.
But you're totally right, because the KKK resurgence is really in a lot of ways is in the 20s, like in the Woodrow Wilson late teens in the 20s is when that stuff gets resurrected after it had kind of been, gauche. And then, by the time we get to the 60s, it's gauche again. There's the famous, like, didn't Superman make fun of the KKK in a comic once, and it kind of like took away a lot of like the coolness factor, even among the racists? The KKK would have been kind of more at the height of their powers 20th century wise in the late 20s, which is when the timeline in the books. Whereas by the time the 60s, it would be more kind of wrapped up in the anti-communist, anti-women's movement, all these stupid Vietnam War protester. I guess this is too early in the early 60s, but this is literally during JFK's presidency, right? So it is a different one. And so I think you're exactly right to point out, like, the Legion of White Decency might still exist at that point, but it's not nearly as open as, maybe when we go to the 1908 timeline, we'll see kind of that being more people walking around with business cards saying, I'm in the Maine Legion of White Decency and stuff like that.
Right. It's the same way, slavery ended up being Jim Crow, right? Slavery went to sharecroppers, went to Jim Crow. Like, racism is still there. It just manifests differently. And like you're saying, it's less open in the 1960s because people were sensing that society was going against that, right? Like, the Civil Rights Act was being signed shortly after. The Civil Rights Movement was at its height. I think that, like you're saying, it was kind of gauche then. And it should be something to be seen negative, but that's why I'm saying, like, I think that's why we didn't get something called the Society of White Decency or whatever, whatever you just said. Yeah, because I think that would have been unbelievable for that time. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, and I think not to hog the spotlight on this, but and talk too long on this point, but the translation of the role of black soldiers in a largely white society would be in some ways different in the 20s versus the 60s also, right? I think there's always been, and certainly still is, a major imbalance between, the benefits, so to speak, of military service as, resisted, like the government and society resisting giving those same benefits, so to speak, to black soldiers, with the GI Bill and redlining and all these bad things that came out after World War II. But back in the 20s, we were still in the Tulsa race massacre era, where
right.
It was really dangerous to be perceived as coming up too high. Whereas I think
at the same time, Harvard was teaching phrenology. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Oh my gosh, in the 20s? Yeah, that's not unfortunately surprising. Come on, Harvard, do better. But
they have since.
Yeah. We need the administration to get in there and close the phrenology department. We need to all that ideology they're pushing. The idea that Leroy would be a black officer makes a lot more sense in the 60s than the 20s, right? The black spot was a little more of like a hideout probably in the 20s timeline versus a little more just a celebratory kind of thing. Not celebratory. They're getting away from the glares of the town, but those soldiers occupy a different role in society. That's, I would hope, at least a little more respectable relative to the rest of the town. Respectable is not the right word, but accepted. Though a lot of good it did them. Sorry, we can move on. This is
Can I ask, what do you think? What you guys think would have happened if they had handed Hank over? Would they still have burned the place down?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it depends on, was Pennywise there to feast on the chaos, or was Pennywise the cause? Because if Pennywise was essentially the cause, I think a lot of people were dying no matter what happened. I think if Pennywise was there, maybe, but I don't even want to get close to victim blaming. I'd be like, if you just handed him over.
No, that would have. Yeah. I think my point is exactly the opposite. I think even if they had handed him over, not only would it have resulted in his death, but I think they would have killed the rest of them anyway.
I mean, to go even further, what if the soldiers had just killed the racist mob? Like, what happens then? And I say that, like, what if their lives would have been ruined by the law would have, but like, what does Pennywise do at this point? Does he still cause a fire somehow? Like, how inescapable was this moment from an almost magical, like, assuming the white mob had
Pennywise
been utterly
doesn't care
stopped.
which mob dies. Yeah,
Exactly.
Right.
Like, what happens if you utterly stop their goal? Does anything change? Like, is there a kind of, does the augury happen whether you like it or not? Though there isn't really one in the, they kind of win in the 80s. That's why it doesn't really happen in the main timeline.
They put it to sleep early. Yeah.
So I have to talk about the cinematography of this scene. We got on television this week, we got two all-time oneers, one on Pluribus, and the other is this scene when the black spot is first set on fire, and there's this one shot that just goes through the chaos and all of these people dying and all these horrible things that are happening. But the cinematography, wow, not to pull a David, but there's a video. People have been going crazy for this one shot, and you can actually watch it on YouTube. If you look up One Shot Derry, they put the whole scene up there for you to admire.
Does it have, it's the fully produced scene, or like, the raw. Okay.
Oh no,
because
yeah,
I would love to see.
Yeah, I'm sure they
Go
will
ahead.
go behind the scenes, especially as Emmys get closer. But yeah, this is just so you can admire the finished product.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dick, when he starts to escape, I was judging him hard because he sees it's Sesqui, the warrior woman from the Glue story. So he sees Ghost Sesqui back, and he speaks to her, and her white eyes clear, so that the ghost eyes clear, and now she's aware of him, and all of the ghosts are now aware of him, and helps him find the way out. But he wasn't even going to call other people to follow him down the hole at first. What do you guys think about Dick's behavior in this situation?
I mean, I think he's just kind of a self-preservation kind of guy, right? Like he's shown that tendency earlier in the season, right? He's like,
right,
don't bother me, don't do this. It just when he finds out that Grogan is there, he doesn't want anything to do with it, right? He's not somebody who's going to step in at this point. I think honestly this is a turning point in his life, and it's why he goes and helps Danny in The Shining.
Huh.
Okay.
This is part of his character growth.
Right.
So we understand that he talks to Sesqui because does Sesqui help him find? Like, I was a little confused.
Well, first she helps him find the exit, the way to get out, and then later, yeah, she helps him find the totem.
Okay, sure, yeah, and it's interesting because they're showing us, and especially not especially, but additionally later we see him surrounded by his zombie former colleagues, right? I guess fellow soldiers. And they're not hostile. The ghosts aren't necessarily hostile to you. So it's an interesting choice in that moment. He sees this, I guess he would have recognized her from the vision of Taniel, right? And he kind of makes a gamble that this is not going to be a harassing ghost, but then he's welcoming automatically all the ghosts, I guess, is sort of the story. And as we talked about last week, I'm not totally sure on how this all works because it's not the way it works in Dr. Sleep. At least it doesn't seem to be. But it's interesting, he's sacrificing potentially his own sanity to get out in this moment, and can't blame him for that. But yeah, that does make that goes along with him, maybe not so explicitly, at least at first, caring about everybody else.
Yeah.
Did you all find the moment when there's a bunch of zombies lined up behind Pennywise and he's like, you see them now or whatever? Did that work for you? To me, that looked a little...
Honestly,
I'm
having trouble remembering what moment you're talking about.
Isn't there some moment where there's a zombie horde backed by fire behind Pennywise? You're about to, again, a video game cutscene?
Yeah, isn't there something? Is this when they have the line when Pennywise says to Dick, they see you now?
I think so. And it just looked weird. It was very boss fight. Video game boss fight, but...
I loved the line, so I guess that worked for me.
Right.
We all see down here. We'll be right back after this break.
Uh-oh. The holidays are really coming up fast, aren't they? But, to quote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, don't panic. Uncommon Goods has you covered, giving you access to thousands of one-of-a-kind gifts you can browse stress-free from the comfort of your own couch. And if Hitchhiker's Guide fans want to follow that book's other most important piece of advice, but find that you do not in fact know where your towel is, Uncommon Goods can help you out there too. From a wearable toga towel to a beach towel that doubles as a backgammon board, complete with oversized wooden playing pieces. Hello, my name is Elysia, and I am addicted to Uncommon Goods. I honestly can't think of another site that has something for everyone in my family, from my sports-loving dad to my foodie mom to my sister, the board game fan. Whatever you choose will feel special, personal, high quality. It will be something your recipients keep, something that makes them feel seen. Uncommon Goods likes to stock products from independent craftsmen or small businesses, which are often handmade or in the US, so you can feel good about where your money's going, especially since with every purchase you make, Uncommon Goods will give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. And bonus, we can help you score a 15% discount. So don't wait. Make this holiday the year you give something truly unforgettable. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/lorehounds. That's uncommongoods.com/lorehounds for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
All right. Well, why don't we talk about the rest of the scene with the black spot? Let's go right to the augury. Mark, you want to read it?
As the people burn in the black spot, Pennywise delights in their suffering. He offers help to a woman and promptly eats her face. After the carnage, he kills Stanley Kirsch and approaches Ingrid, who tells him she called the sheriff to create the violence. She successfully lures him and gives her the fatherly approval. He gives her the fatherly approval she craved. When he tries to go to sleep, she tells him not to abandon her and realizes Pennywise is not her father. It brings out the lights. Lights, dead.
Yeah, lights, dead. So,
yep.
Mark, do you want to... We've teased this word deadlights before and talked about that the way it's represented in the movies and the show is these 3 white lights. Do you think we should talk more about what the deadlights are and how that might have affected Ingrid? Or do you think that's spoilery for the finale, potentially?
I mean, it's one of those things where I think we have to assume people have seen the movie, right? So
we've seen.
We can talk pretty big picture about this. I think there are Dark Tower connections. Maybe we can not really get too deeply into, but like the deadlights are either sort of the source of energy that fuels it, or actually the true form of it. And without getting too much into the Dark Tower, it sort of comes from this space called the Todash Darkness, which is kind of the world between worlds. Think of it like almost like the void, the abyss. Like this is where crazy monsters come from. Like if anybody's seen The Mist, there's reason to think.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because, well, anyway, yeah, is that also from the Todash Darkness?
So yeah, it's implied. I've never read The Mist, but it's implied really, I think, in the Dark Tower that have you seen it?
I've seen the movie, but I haven't read the book.
Yeah, so have I. The movie's excellent. But it's implied that those creatures come from the Todash space, right? And there are other important characters to the Dark Tower that I won't spoil because it's very Novel 7 stuff, but that you see the deadlights and they're not Pennywise related specifically. And so it sort of just implies that maybe this is a force that, either is that sort of evil outer world or the creatures from that world or that sector of the universe sort of all are based on it or exhibit it, right? Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, I don't know if this comes from the book or the movies, I can't remember, but I had this idea that the deadlights are kind of like the entity's true form.
I think so. Yeah. But it's like, is it the form itself or the energy behind that? That's not entirely clear. And practically speaking, when we cut to like, how does this affect? Basically, if you see the true form, it's sort of H.P. Lovecraft style. Like it's cosmic horror in a sense. Like if you see in the novel, you see the deadlights, you either die or you're basically your brain is broken, right? You're driven insane or you are, put into a coma. There's one character in the It novel that maybe kind of potentially comes back from that, but otherwise it's pretty much a death sentence. And so that is
we saw
very
Bev
different.
do it in the movie.
Well, see, I was just going to say it's a very different canon because Bev gets deadlighted. She gets deadlit and then is woken up by a kiss. So Ben kisses her and she gets woken up. So this is really relevant to not only Ingrid, but what happens with Will at the end, right? In the novel, if you told me that Mike Hanlon's father that has not yet sired Mike Hanlon was deadlighted, I would say that is canonically impossible, right? Basically, he's either dead at this moment or he is in a vegetative state. But in the film universe, maybe he just needs a poetic little spunky 12-year-old boy to kiss him and he'll get woken up again. So
he's got something going with Ronnie too. So
Ronnie needs to write really sweet poetry secretly about him.
That's
and
right.
Then
something tells me Hank's not going to kiss Ingrid out of this.
Yeah, I don't. Gosh, we have to talk about that too. But just wrapping up on the deadlights. Like, I think what we're supposed to understand here is that it's sort of the essence of the creature, right? The pure essence of the creature, the energy of the creature, and it breaks your brain. And it's just a varying levels of permanence in the film series. So I don't want them to take away the stakes to it. I don't know. I think with Bev, we're supposed to understand Bev Marsh in the film is deadlit and then probably going to be eaten later. But here he does it to Ingrid and just kind of leaves. So that was more of just out of spite. I don't know. Let's talk about it. Like what's happening in Pennywise's mind when he goes from kind of amused sort of by her. And I love how Skarsgård's playing it like he's kind of getting drowsy. There's like a loopiness to Pennywise when he's telling her that he's going to sleep. And then he goes, you know what, never mind. And then opens up his face to essentially kill her, but then leaves. Like, it's not like he takes her down into the sewer to eat later. So what are we thinking is going on there?
That we see, first of all, that there's that moment, which was another great piece of acting by Bill Skarsgård, where he's hugging her and it almost looks like he's going to take a bite out of her and then kind of changes his mind. I suppose he's like, she was really useful and maybe she could survive another 27 years.
See, I don't think that was it.
Okay. Well, and then I was going to say also that Ingrid, but then right after that, Ingrid finally realized it's not her father, which is like, you didn't realize when he was literally eating your husband's face in front of you, which granted, Stanley the Cleaver, not a good dude, it turns out. But the thing that makes her realize is she's like, you're abandoning me? Daddy would never. Like, wow, Ingrid. Wow.
She did that already in the 30s, or he did that to her in the 30s too, right? But like,
we don't know how
I guess she wasn't
yet.
Periwinkle yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you interpret this, John? Sounds
I was going to say, when he's hugging her, the reason he doesn't eat her is because she has no fear of him. She is completely loving to him.
That's
and so
great.
She must taste just super bitter for him. Like he's like, not my style. I just had a good meal. I don't need this.
Nobody wants
dessert.
oxytocin. Yeah. We want cortisol, not oxytocin.
Anyway, that's what I think, is that she was almost repellent to him because he's never felt love before, and he's like, oh, I don't want that.
Yeah.
That's question about we talked about the cycle, and we hear in the next scene, one of the Native American guys says, see you shit asses in 27 years. I was like, who's that guy? What's his story? I hope we see him in season 2. But
oh my gosh, yeah. I want to talk about that line real quick.
Okay.
Shit asses. First of all, shit ass is like top 5 combo
insult.
swear word. I had never heard shit ass until hearing it probably 5 million times in the series Reservation Dogs. Have either of you seen that series?
Not yet. It's on my for shame list.
It's a lot like Atlanta or like Master of None in the sense that it's like one of these comedies that's not like comedy, but is just so funny in its drama. It's set at a reservation, a bunch of teenagers in, I think, Oklahoma, and everybody, especially all the old aunties and uncles, are calling everybody shit ass all the time. And I looked, and when I heard it in the show, I'm like, is that an homage to Reservation Dogs? But I don't know that. It's not like, I think it might be that, because I looked, and people please correct me, is reservation or is shit ass a specifically like modern American Indian slang?
It would not make sense to have the same slang in Maine as in Oklahoma in that case.
In the 60s also, right?
These are completely different tribes that wouldn't interact at this point.
So I think it's really just a reference, because that the writers or that actor were like down with that show, which is a great show, by the way. I do recommend it. It's very heartfelt and really funny. Only 3 seasons too. I think it's just a reference because it sticks out like a sore thumb, and I was down for it, but I don't think that's like there's no cultural reason that term specifically. Anyways, we're getting ahead.
Yeah, but my question was just about the 27 years. We talked about it before, and I thought it was variable, and now I'm realizing I think it might be just the 90s series that made that the lore. And is it strictly 27 years every year? I mean, every time in the novel?
Well, I know in the show they said 26 or 27 years.
Oh, they did? So it is slightly variable?
I think it's slightly, but it's not. It's pretty, you can count on it.
Okay. Can I ask you, John, you were hoping that this time that it would go differently and it would go to sleep. Obviously, things happen at the end of the episode, but were you happy to hear that that's the direction things were going for a second there? That the entity was full?
Sorry, there's some noise outside. Someone's dropping off a bucket of internet points. Yeah, no, I think that's more interesting to have it go a different way this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's not let it get beaten up every time, because then it'll start to feel like, is this even a monster, or is this just kind of like a punching bag for kids?
Right. Okay, another lore question. Does it have Bob Gray's memories? Because it seems so, like the fact he knows to call Ingrid Pumpkin and other things like that. Does it...
I thought that was just going into Ingrid's head.
Or having previously gone into Bob Gray's head when he killed Bob Gray.
Okay, yeah. So it's not like he inherits them. It's just a sort of mind readeriness.
I think Pennywise gets the pluribus knowledge of everyone in Derry. Well, he's
right. It's not because he ate the brain. It's just
right.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
So can I call out real quick novel comparison?
Mm-hmm.
We get this scene from the perspective in the novel told to Mike Hanlon, who, remember, Mike is the librarian, everybody. So he spends the intervening years before everybody comes back for what in the film is it chapter 2, trying to research Derry's history, right? And find out what is going on here, right? So I believe it's his dad, Will, telling him the story of being here years before. I could be wrong if it's Will, but apparently Pennywise is not there as Pennywise. It is there as a giant bird. So it's interesting because how in the films, each of the kids and then later the adults, there's a sort of classic incarnation of how they see it. Yes, they see Pennywise, but they'll be like the mummy or the werewolf. They each kind of have one. The weird painting is for one of them as a kid, right? Mike's sort of the avatar that it chooses for Mike is a giant bird usually. And that's not what it is in the film. In the film, it's, I think, his parents on fire or something like that. But in the film, it's this bird. And then we hear for his dad, I think it's his dad, at the black spot, there's this giant bird just like picking people off as they're fleeing the building. Right. And so I think with this Bob Gray episode, at the first half, I think it makes more sense to give us Pennywise in this episode, but it is interesting. Pennywise himself is not there in the novel, it's a bird that is floating on balloons, basically eating people, right? So a kind of a different vibe for whatever reason that I think has more to do with the characterization and using Skarsgård to write him out in this 7th episode.
Yeah. Can I point out what after, like, just the Pennywise of it all, the fact that it's not just that this horrible thing happened, but also the way that it's spoken about after. We find out that 23 people died at the Black Spot and 17 children have been killed overall in this cycle, which we were told was a lesser cycle, at least, with the 17 kids. But then we see in town, they zoomed in to show us when there's that Hank Grogan wanted poster that is posted on top of a missing children's poster. Like they are literally becoming blind to the children. And then we hear Stanley, of course, talked about Stanley, the wife beater who is there to, massacre people, is beloved local butcher. And they called the racist several citizens who showed up to help treat the wounded and blame, they call it an illegal colored speakeasy. Negro patients must be responsible for the tragedy. It's really... my blood was boiling listening to how all of this is spoken about after the fact. And that is this sort of, like, at this point, Pennywise is going back to sleep, but it's just something about, I suppose do you think that's what the discharge in the water is about? Leaving behind that just general icky.
I don't think that Pennywise started that. Like, that's just racism, societal racism working. But I think it helps, right? It helps people forget what really happened. But you have to think about, like, how many people had to be part of that cover up, right? Like, all the firefighters, all the police, all had to be part of ignoring the fact that there was no electrical fire. Like, they know what started that fire. They know that it started from the outside. And they know that it was, probably gasoline or something like that. Like, the fire was lit from outside. It's clear arson.
And the door was blocked,
It's not just that. I think... that's real. That would happen in real life without magic. Like, we're going to just cover this up and say that it was started by the illegal speakeasy, right? But they had to cover up, Stanley Kirsch's face was cut in half. Like, that's not a burned body as he's saving kids and chewed. And there's people who are eaten and, like, gunshot exploded heads. It's not just that they're covering up the cause of a fire. They are covering up, like... they better have a bunch of closed casket funerals for all these people whose faces have been eaten.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not, I don't even know that it's a cover up as much as just, it must be kind of a magical inability to even address the reality. Because think of it this way also, like, Hank is not killed. People have a bloodlust. The people that survive that, like, meaning the racist starters of this fire, ostensibly were there just to kill him in the first place. He clearly was not killed, but they're creating a lie that he was killed. Why not just keep hunting for, like, they've ceased to even have the desire to chase him. Like, Pennywise has sort of backed off, so to speak, because, you could imagine a poster that instead was like, fire at this speakeasy, heroes killed, murderer still at large. Let's rally the town to go catch this. They could blame the fire on Hank Grogan. But instead, no, they said Hank's dead, even though Hank is not dead.
They're all tired,
they're all, thank you. That's a really well put. They're all tired because it kind of makes no sense given what we think the motivation of those, the Legion of White Decency guys is to kill him. They didn't even accomplish that. And it's enough to just blame it on an electrical fire and just move on with your life. Well, we didn't really think he killed those kids anyways, right? It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, again, no mention of Rich in the reports too. But one thing I noticed that the camera did that has me wondering how this is going to play into the finale is it zoomed in on Al Menken, which was Phil and Susie's father. We last saw him attacking Hank Grogan when he was being put on the bus to Shawshank. But here he the way I've read it at least, is he seems to look a bit troubled. Like we saw him looking in as the fire was started and people were blocked in, and he seemed to have something in him that said, this has gone too far.
What have we done? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And is that Pennywise's spell backing off, kind of?
Right.
All right, let's keep going because we're running out of time here. Mission accomplished. Halloran uses the contact he's made with the indigenous ghost to find one of the pillars. They dig it up and send it back to base. Hanlon is confused as that would extend the cage, not enclose it as he was promised. He stops the base from incinerating the shard of Pennywise's prison just in time. Shaw confronts Hanlon and tells him the real mission, which is to spread fear across the country to stop the enemy from within. We love that phrase. He sends Hanlon back to his quarters and tells his subordinate, who I can't remember the name of, not to let Hanlon leave the base. The shard is destroyed and Pennywise awakens from hibernation.
Okay, I have a question about the whole Leroy fear thing because, well, first of all, I think it's interesting that we see his lack of fear means that he just turns on the soldiers in a way probably a lot of people would not do that. But why did they need somebody without fear if their plan is to unleash fear on everyone? Or was that just because I never, I've already said anything Shaw says at this point, I just have to assume is a lie. He's put himself in that category. So was that just a lie? And they actually, what did they want with this damaged amygdala situation?
That turned out not to matter.
Yeah, that was kind of disappointing. I mean, I wonder if it'll come up in the last episode. Maybe they've been saving it, but we'll see. Because right now, I mean, I guess you could just say we were going to send somebody to go find the actual entity and we didn't want the soldiers to die. So we wanted somebody with a level head who wouldn't be affected by it to go in. And maybe
which didn't happen, right?
Once the magic worked on Leroy, because he kind of gets ridden off after the sewers, right? So once the magic worked on Leroy, he's kind of not part of the in-group anymore.
Yeah, I feel like that was set up kind of a writerly way to kind of get him into the story, but I don't think they needed that. They could have just had him stationed here, unless it does turn out to matter. If you were trying to, you could argue, well, we thought we needed him to get the pillar, and then once we destroy the pillar, who needs him anymore? We want fear, but yeah, that kind of turned out to be a nothing burger. Question, how high up does this plan go? Is this a JFK plan? Because that's not King Ian. I've talked about how JFK is a gunslinger.
Right. I have to assume
it feels like, is this a deep state in the Pentagon kind of thing? This is a crazy, stupid plan, obviously. But
JFK wasn't doing MK Ultra, right? That's just something that was happening, I assume, without his knowledge?
Before and after, kind of regardless of the presidency specifically. This is... Question is, what's the dumber plan? Unite America by scaring Americans with a monster, or using Pennywise, the monster, as a weapon against the Soviet Union? Which is stupider?
Scaring America, because first of all, you're putting yourself, you and your family are in the quote unquote cage too, only I guess you don't want a cage. And I'm sorry, but I thought it was stupid if you don't scare people into submission, because scaring people tends to make them angrier and more aggressive and lash out. It's same with every animal. So just if you think about, I suppose this is supposed to be a 1984 kind of situation, the George Orwell novel, but and I don't know. Do you guys think that fear represses people? Because it's everything in my experience says that it just makes them wilder and more unpredictable.
Let me do some work for the writers here. In 1908, maybe we see Shaw and Rose come together and with a group of friends, and everyone comes together in the face of fear, and he's like, fear is what unites people. He takes the wrong lesson from it.
They got me though on the anger side. I'm normally someone, I'm like, oh, everyone deserves a fair trial. In this scene, I'm like, shoot the bastard. I'm so done with Shaw.
Look, you never trust a Harrison Ford lookalike who's not Harrison Ford. I'm just
this is really interesting too. So many thoughts here. first of all, about Shaw, this is if they had a little losers club, this is our loser that has gone bad. We have not seen that yet. And I think there's an argument to be made, and I'm not saying that because we don't know the history there, that it is sort of counter to the vibe and the thesis of it, right? That like, if they truly had a little losers club back in the aughts, and one of them has gone full, I'm going to unleash Pennywise to the rest. This is not Stan Uris killing himself because he's so afraid of Pennywise. This is one of the losers becoming Henry Bowers, right?
He left town, so I think, yeah.
Well, they all left town.
Going to be someone. Well,
someone else.
Rose didn't leave town, but I think
you're saying he left town before. No, but I'm saying the kids in it, the original kids in the 80s, they left town after it. You're saying because he left town before the cycle was done,
right? I don't think he was really a member of the 1908 Losers Club.
Okay,
I think.
Right. Yeah, that's because so that's one thing. Like, I hope there's an explanation like that, because him getting that wrong lesson that John is alluding to does feel very not in line with the sort of thesis of this particular aspect of the King franchises. In terms of fear,
because I just want to push back a little bit, because people are different, right? Like, and you have all these different kids of all these different generations. Some people react by committing suicide, and I do think that you could have a reaction where you're like, unhinged reaction. I mean, look at the way that Ingrid reacts, right? Like, that's not logical.
Yeah, so it's not about what's realistic for me, and this is completely a matter of taste, possibly, but it's about kind of like compositional unity, right? Like, I spend a lot of time in my music classes like talking about like, okay, if you spend the first 5 minutes of this 6-minute song you're using just major and minor chords, and then in the last second it's like totally atonal. Like, you better have a good reason for that, because you've interrupted the unity, the aesthetic unity, right? So it's not about what's realistic. Think about like,
another word for compositional unity in storytelling would be repetition, and I think I would like them to avoid that. But sorry. Go ahead.
But like, think about it. Okay, so like, music is obviously my field of expertise. Like, you like to see an artist evolve, right? But there's an aspect of that artist that is kind of the reason you like that artist. So think like, I don't know, the Beach Boys. Like, there's a lot of things to like about the Beach Boys, the 60s, various eras, like songwriting. One of the fundamental reasons why the Beach Boys are awesome is because they have dope backup vocals and vocal harmonies, right? If the Beach Boys took an album that everything was the same except it had no backup vocals, there's disappointment to that, because there's like, okay, I want you to evolve, but I also think there are reasons I come for the Beach Boys. And so there's something about it that, and this is a matter of taste, and this is a matter of like, we'll see what happens, but is there something about the essence of it, and I don't mean the Deadlights, the essence of the novel, that is sort of the moral of the story is about friendship and togetherness, right? And so in the same way that if you had like a work of, let's say you had a work of protest literature, that then there was an adaptation that took the opposite end. Like, if you had an anti-racist book and then they made a prequel that was pro-racist, you could say, okay, there's something that is breaking the intention here. And so I'm making claims about what the sort of essential truth to it is, but I do worry that, and I could be wrong there, I do worry that if it is true that he is both a loser and the central antagonist of this season, that could be breaking like why I'm here for it. I'm not here for Pennywise. I'm here for the Losers Club. I'm here for the kids. I'm here for the love, the fellowship, right?
You're just like Pennywise. You're here for the kids.
That's right. They taste great. And so, I don't know. We don't know. But like, there's a version where Shaw left before those bonds formed, and that explains it. That feels more in keeping with what this story means to me in terms of capital M means, like what the moral of it is, versus Shaw is a loser gone bad. I'm not saying that's not interesting, and that's not good, interesting writing, and that's not good, like logical in a lot of ways, and humans are different. But is it part of the It franchise? I don't have the answers, but it feels a little funny to me.
Well, I think we might see Lily go bad, and I'm going to get to that next.
Wow.
Let's
Can I say before we move on, since obviously I haven't talked enough, we mentioned the sort of, God, what is the tribal council, the It fighting club called? I don't remember.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up, because I forgot to put that and like 3 other tiny scenes in here, and I've been adding them as we go, and then that was one that I was going to add in the last one. So thank you for bringing that in now.
Yes. So I love that crew. It's kind of interesting. It's nice to get a little taste of something and want more. But I have to say, did they do anything? Like, they're like, oh, it's 17 children died, 23. It'd be a lot more if we hadn't kept him in the cage. And I wonder, is that true? If you took this cage out, are we sure Pennywise wouldn't just eat that number of people and can go hibernate? What makes us think that Pennywise would just consume the world at that point? Maybe Pennywise just eats 20 kids or whatever and like Pennywise might migrate. He might end up in Albuquerque, New Mexico and eating kids, but I question if these guys are doing anything at all, really.
Yeah.
Like, does it changes the territory, but is the amount of death the same?
I mean, it is interesting that they don't try to do this, because we find out in the movies that they are the ones who tell Mike about this ritual of Chud, which in the book is how they lock away Pennywise for 3 cycles, so like 100 years. And
oh, wow, I don't remember that.
It's interesting that it's also completely possible I'm getting movie and book lore conflated again, but I mean, it's not the tribe, obviously, but it is like, obviously in the book, the turtle teaches them how to do this ritual of Chud. But it's interesting we don't see them attempt to do that here.
There's no tongue biting.
There's no tongue biting. Yeah, thank God that didn't make it into the movie either.
The turtle couldn't help us. All right, let's get to the last group of scenes here. The town begins the process of forgetting and puts blame on the victims while celebrating the culprits. Hank is smuggled to Rose by Charlotte. Marge and Ronnie go to the balcony and mourn Rich, remembering that he never got a plane to Main Street. They go to Lily's house, where she's looking very disturbed as she holds the dagger. And Ronnie and Marge tearfully tell Lily that Rich is gone. Will gets a call from Ronnie Wise, who shows up on top of his fridge, ready to party.
That final jump scare actually was quite good. It's not, because jump scares are often quite cheap, but this one was really well set up and executed. I think that was on YouTube. There are some behind the scenes of that.
There was a really funny Reddit post where somebody put Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse on his pose up there, because he's all red and he's sitting with the Spider-Man pose.
Funny.
But yeah, I'm worried about Lily. That dagger looks bad. Like, they really have her looking sallow and washed out. So I'm with you on worrying about her. And then obviously, as Mark mentioned earlier, Will's seen the deadlights. So what does that mean?
Is he just dead? And then we have to rewrite the movie. Yeah. This is really interesting, because this is all extra. Like, we only know the backstory. We know what the scenario is in the 80s, of course, because we've seen the film and such, but we know about the black spot, but we don't really have any idea where they're going now. So is this going to be a sort of golden age of TV denouement episode where, like, we have the big battle in episode 7 and then the last episode is like cleaning it up? Or is this actually building to the real Augury or something like that? Because Pennywise is apparently not asleep. So this is really interesting for a prequel series, for us to, I think, more than we ever have been in this season, be completely unsure what's going to happen next. So hopefully it's cool what they do and not like breaking the canon. But I'm intrigued. Do we think we've seen the end of Ingrid?
No.
She was dead lid. And I don't mean Ingrid as a character. I mean this timeline Ingrid.
Right.
Like comatose Ingrid who
her eyes were moving at the end. Like she was registering, she was looking around as they were putting her in the ambulance. So I think she's going to play into the last episode. They're not going to waste Madeline Stowe like that.
Yeah, I wonder if she's going to try to atone and save the kids.
Well, a question, by the way, I meant to say this like 30 minutes ago. I love that she had a grown-up periwinkle costume, and I'm just imagining like her asshole husband is like completely oblivious to her literally sewing a clown costume or something like that, and she keeps it. He's like, "What are you doing there?" Like under his idiot nose. So I wanted to ask about her though, like in terms of whether she gets a redemption or whatever, waking up from this sort of madness she's in. How far back do we think she planned this? Like clearly she admits to, I called in the racists to cause this, bloodshed. But is that what her affair with Hank was from the beginning? Or was that actually just an affair and then she sees an opportunity when she realizes Pennywise is back?
That's interesting. I wonder if she knew that if she went public with the affair, violence would be committed on him. But then she could have done something with that way earlier.
Right.
I think it was an opportunity. I think that's the only way that makes sense.
So this might have just been an earnest actual affair because she's in this loveless marriage with this guy. But she seems so singularly fixed on this. But she can coexist in society quite functionally. Like she's not like...
Even unhinged, murderous women have their needs.
Yeah.
Hank Rogan is a good-looking guy. I like the credit song that they come out with. Trouble's back in town. Like I was just absolutely delighted by the ending of this episode, which is horrible to say about an episode in which one of my favorite characters died, and it ends with at least one. Well, actually, okay. I'm biting my tongue so hard on something I'm looking forward to being able to talk about in the finale. But
oh wow, I'm super curious what you could possibly. I guess I'll have to wait till next week.
I did bring it up in a previous episode, but I've been quiet about it.
Okay.
Since.
All right, I'm making a prediction here. Lily kills Ronnie with the dagger.
Wow. Yeah.
Lily mistakes Ronnie for it and kills her with the dagger.
Yeah,
because we've already seen.
Yeah. Okay.
It
accidental
pretend
murder
to be Ronnie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's true.
Wow.
And Lily's gripping that dagger real tight.
And what they did with Lily's makeup, like I was saying before, just how washed out she looks. I'm like, that girl's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that breaks my whole thing about the Beach Boys having no backup vocals. I don't think that would be that, because that's a mistake. And that's Lily. There's been this schism in the group, right? And that doesn't mean it has to heal, right? She's not going to do that and then be evil. She's going to do that if that happens and feel terrible regret, right? So, yeah, wow, you put your internet points on a clear wager. My prediction, I'm going to enjoy episode 8, but I'm going to go on a random 5-minute rant in the middle about how wondering if this show is actually going to ruin the canon, blah, 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 blah. And the listeners are going to fast forward about 5 minutes probably again, right? That's my prediction.
That'll be fine.
Is that it's going to be good, but there's going to be 5% of the episode that I'm like, but the thing I read when I was 13 years old is different.
Hey, I've been there with Wheel of Time and Tolkien. So
I've actually been thinking about that because the three of us, last hung out talking at the water cooler about Wheel of Time, and that was like so different, right? But it was an update, and it felt like a different thing where I was really just like along for the ride. And I like this show, but I was like down for like abuse of the canon in that, because it was like, give me a new canon kind of. Whereas this, because the 2017 novel is a pretty faithful adaptation, I find myself a little more on guard with it, which is really interesting, because it's not an issue of like, I love it more than I love the Wheel of Time. I really love the Wheel of Time. There's something about how close this is that makes me like,
there's an uncanny
scared.
valley.
a little bit. Whereas Wheel of Time, I'm like, you're rewriting some of this and like, give me a new story, a new telling of the wheel. So yeah, I was thinking about how maybe I whine more in this than I did in that. But I know there's a couple people in the Discord that sometimes agree with my takes. So I will stop when the season is over and only then.
Fair enough. Well, Mark, I know you got to get going, so we will head out here and I'll do the outro on my own. And we will see you all for the finale next week.
Can I just plug? David is on our podcast this week.
Ooh, very excited.
David talking about...
I was just listening to it. My generation.
Yeah, he's talking about not the Who song, but like why, like we're talking about the sort of, what's the transfer of power as one generation grows up and sort of starts making music for themselves. And then when the next kids, they make music for the next kids, and like whether their musical seed changes when a generational cohort comes of age. It's a really interesting and fun conversation.
Can I just say that I think you underestimate the ground-changing importance of EDM. But that's it. I think that does mark a generational change.
So I was thinking about that. So too. I think though I quibble also with like the timing of it, because you could there's an argument to be made that was also in the late 90s, really, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's an arbitrary bullet point to say it's 2012 or whatever, right? So yeah, listen to the episode, folks. Let's litigate it in the Discord.
All right, very cool. Well, I'll talk about the rest of that in the outro, but for now, we'll see you next week. Hey, everyone. Sorry this episode is out a little bit later than usual. I had a crazy week, but it's out now. We're ready for the finale next week or very soon, and we're looking forward to sharing that with you. But for now, let's talk about what else is happening on the network. You've got Mark on Nevermind the Music. He just talked about his goings on, but definitely check that out. Weekly coverage. You can find that link tree in the show notes. You can also find our other affiliates, Radioactive Rambling, about to cover Fallout Season 2. You have Woolshift Dust. Elysia's got all her stuff going on, Christmas Carol V2, and all her other stuff. She'll have some Star Wars coming up soon on the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast feed. And I'm sure Properly Howard will be back soon, too. We also have plenty going on the network. We've got Pluribus coverage weekly with David and Nicole from Nevermind the Music, Mark's co-host. We've got our top 10 shows of the year coming up. That's an annual podcast we do. It's Second Breakfast, which is usually our subscriber exclusive episode, but we do it public in December. That's our Christmas present to all of you. That'll come out on Christmas Day. We'll also have conversations with our co-hosts and contributors on their top 3 shows of the year. And if you're a subscriber, you can submit your top 10 lists in the poll that is, I think, still available. We're going to have a lot of great coverage in the new year. I know we're going to be covering A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We have a lot of other great coverage coming. We're going to be doing Christmas movies, Die Hard 1 versus Die Hard 2 as our subscriber 11Zs this month, and Violent Night as our public Christmas movie review this winter. All right, everybody. I just want to say a quick thank you to all of our server boosters on Discord and our lore masters, our top tier subscribers. Our server boosters are Aaron K, Tiller the Thriller, Duve71, Athena A, Lestu, Nancy M, Ghost of Bardition, Radioactive Richard, and Adrian. And our lore masters, Samartian, Michael G, Michelle E, SC, Peter OH, Nancy M, Duve71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Andra B, Kwang Yu, Nathan T, Sub-Zero, Aaron K, Dally V, Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W, Lestu, Jeffrey B, Elysia U, Ben B, Scott F, Stephen N, Julia F, Kali S, Ilmariel, Paul K, Rocky Zim, Jessica A, Red Zippy, The TCS, Dopamini, Catch It, Alan R, and Adrian. Thank you, everyone, for all your support. We will be back to talk about all the scares of the finale now that it's back next week.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by the Lorehounds. You can send questions and comments to lorehounds@thelorehounds.com. Get ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts on Patreon or Supercast, and connect with us on Blue Sky and join us on our Discord server. Links for everything are in the link tree in the show notes of this episode. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening.